This is Teach Henley. It's a cream for the face to make you beautiful.
Men, have you not been getting girls lately? You need to try Teach Henley Uncomplicated Skincare for Men.
Oh my god, I wish my man had Teach Henley. Then maybe I'd find that in my dreams.
Teach Henley, Henley, Henley.
Teach Henley, Teach Henley, Teach Henley, моя.
Teach Henley, let's go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to BioS 3 Raw TV. Today I want to talk about something that is super interesting, and it of course is a new study that came out, which I was, of course I heard what the study was about, which was the faster you lift weights, the longer you can live. Like, that was the headline. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, so tonight we're going to just talk about this a little bit, but we're going to talk about something from a little bit of a different perspective, because I feel like there's that headline that grabs your attention. It's not really that accurate, but we're gonna talk about some stuff. So basically, they did a study. I'll kind of go over this for you a little bit. According to a research by the University of Michigan, having stronger muscles is linked to living longer. Now, there's two different things that I read. One of them was that lifting weights, but actually lifting faster pace. I don't mean like, set-wise, moving very quickly between sets. I mean actually doing the reps themselves faster will actually help you live longer, because there's like a sort of cardiovascular effect when you train faster. And I was like, well, shouldn't you just do some cardio rather than lifting weights faster? But okay, we'll back up anyways. So they're saying that basically strength in general, and not power, right? Not one rep max, but strength in general. The stronger you are, the longer you live, which I was like, well, that makes sense. The stronger you are as you get older, you're technically healthier because your body's still stronger. Like, your muscles are stronger, your immune system is stronger, you would live longer. Like, that kind of makes sense. But the study published in the Journal of Gerontology Medical Sciences found that people with low muscle strength are 50% more likely to die earlier than the stronger peers. Now, not the muscle strength, right? People that lift weights most of the time have a stronger immune system response also. It's part of the adaptation process that you build muscle with, or gain strength that you recover from those workouts. So that would kind of make sense, but it's technically not the weight training that's doing it. It's the immune system being boosted, and you can boost the immune system many different ways, not just weight training. But, let's keep going with this. Maintaining muscle strength throughout life, and especially in later life, is extremely important for longevity and aging independently. Along with their colleagues, Kate Duchovny, that's kind of funny, like the guy from the X-Files, analyzed data from 8,326 men and women over the age of 65 who were selected to represent the national population as a whole as part of the university's health and retirement study. Health and retirement study. That's kind of interesting. I never heard a study about health and retirement. That's pretty cool. Researchers found that hand grip strength in particular was important, as inversely linked to mobility limitations. However, this is not a measure that regularly tested in routine physicals. Grip strength is considered a good reflection of overall strength and is easy to measure with a dynameter. A person simply squeezes it to measure the strength in kilograms. The study found that 46% of the participants were considered weak based on the thresholds laid out by the researchers. What's more, the people in the weak category were over 50% more likely to die earlier than stronger people. Well, here's the thing. 65 and over. These people already are older. So regardless of whether they were strong or not, all of them made it over 65. So even the ones that were weak, that had weak grip strength, over the age of 65, which means that, to me, dying early, 45, 50, 55, you hit 65, you're doing pretty good. My personal opinion is, you hit 65, you are in your quote-unquote golden years, like your retirement years. You've made it to old age. That's just kind of how it's always been, right? But anyway, so we're going to leave that right there. So basically, grip strength. Now, I get the fact that if your grip strength is really good when you get older, you can take lids off things, you can carry things, you can pick things up. Good mobility in general, along with grip strength, I think is good for young people as well as old people. But to maintain that strength as you get older, like these people did, you have to maintain it. To maintain it, you have to maintain it, if that makes any sense. But you have to maintain it by continuing to do certain exercises, like maybe grip strength or lifting weights, stuff like that, to maintain that as you get older. But that also maintains your muscle mass. It also helps with immune system response. It helps with a host of things. So they didn't really delve into why this this study was showing that people live longer. Now, the big thing that I looked at that they didn't really talk about, which also is a big factor, is people that are 65 years old that are working out, that have good grip strength, have very good exercise habits because they've been doing it for a long period of time. Most people don't just decide to pick up weights at 65 years old and all of a sudden they're going to become weight training and they're going to become athletic. It's usually something that has been instilled in them work ethic wise, that they either have enjoyed their whole life working out or they started very young in athletics and just continued keeping up with that activity and those exercises because they knew it would benefit them long term. But another thing they didn't talk about is people that are 65 that have been lifting weights for a while, that have good grip strength, that are strong, meaning that they're, working 10 to 12 reps are strong, not power, not single rep max, right? But they're working out, 10, 15 reps, whatever the case may be that they studied. They're not adding in there that these people are about 1 million times more likely to eat better and choose foods that are less chemically laden and less calorically laden than the average person. So they already are living a completely different lifestyle that causes them to live longer, not just lifting weights. And I was like, they make it seem like if you go buy those gripper things, I don't know if you guys remember those things. When I was a kid, it was like a spring. It had 2 handles on it. You put it in your hand and you squeeze it. The cruncher, the squisher, the cruncher, they had different names for them. One was like the eagle claw. It had like 5 different holes and you put your fingers into it and it was springs and you would crush it like that. And they make this, the way this study reads is that if you do that, you're going to live to be 1,000. Like that's what I feel like is really unrealistic. And, the headlines are great though. Muscle strength, muscle strength and grip strength means you live longer. Like my grandfather had a grip like a fucking, it was like a vice. He had, like you shook his hand, he would crush your hand at 94 years old. Now here's an individual that was a farmer. Okay, he died at 94 and 96. And we'll go over through the whole thing about him, but my grandfather grew up in Portugal. He came over, I guess when he was a really young age, and I forget where, from the Azores Islands, I believe, in Portugal. And, was it the Azores? I believe it was the Azores. I can't remember exactly where my family was from over there, but, so he comes over here and he is a farmer. Now, not the farmer that, we think of, like, the farmers that, are riding tractors and stuff like that. My grandfather used to actually dig in the dirt with his hands. And they would plant the crops and stuff with their hands and go from, plot to plot to plot to plot, doing this all day long in the hot sun. Fucking 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. All summer he would do that stuff. And then he would plant corn and stuff in the fall. So he did that constantly. And they would pick all the vegetables and stuff. They had, we call it native corn, native tomatoes, cucumbers, green beans, what else did they have? I think that was pretty much the gist of what he had. And what they would do is they would pick these things by hand and pick up these bushels, these giant fucking bushel baskets, and throw them on the tractor, throw them in the truck. And this is a 90-something-year-old man doing this still. So he did that consistently his whole life. Now, that is the exercise part, right? And he lived to be 94 years old, lived by himself, had all his wits about him, was still strong. And what people are not kind of paying attention to, that wasn't just one thing. That one thing. He also ate very wholesome, homemade foods that were much less chemically laden than a lot of stuff that we see at grocery stores. Like my grandmother would make food for him. It was very natural stuff, but he would also get meat and stuff from the butcher, which is not like the stuff that you get in the stores and stuff. This is like locally farmed stuff. He would also trade, like old school, some of the vegetables for different meats and stuff. So he had a much more, balanced, healthy diet that was, I'd say, low calorie wise, but at the same time didn't have the chemicals that everything has in it. So now you have a person who is out there physically active, doing things that actually takes you to be very strong to do, as well as eating a certain amount of calories in certain types of food for his entire life. So now fast forward, when he got a little bit older, his eyesight wasn't as good. And it really had nothing to do with the fact that like he wasn't eating well or whatever. It was just a genetic thing, and eventually it wasn't even like he was blind or anything. He just couldn't see well enough to drive, so therefore he couldn't drive to the farm anymore to work. So what he did was, get this, and I think it was probably about the last 3 years of his life, which right up to the time he died, he was super active and totally fine. He had an exercise bike in his living room. I actually posted a picture of it on my Instagram about a week before he died. And he would actually do the bike in the living room while he was watching TV because he wanted to keep his legs strong to get up and down the stairs. He lived on the second floor. He owned the house that had 3 tenement floors, and he lived in the second floor. So to be up walking down the stairs with his legs being not really exercising, being home a lot because he was a lot older, he needed to exercise. So he'd do the bike, and he bought something called the Thigh Master. Now, if you guys remember this thing from like the 90s, 80s, it was this stupid spring thing that Suzanne Summers had that you put between your thighs, and it's like an adductor. You squeeze your thighs together with it, and it's supposed to tone your thighs. Well, there was actually a workout that came with it. So you would take it. It was like kind of like a triangle, right? And it had like this little knob thing on it. He would put the triangle here, put his arms on it, and you'd squeeze it together like this. He would do pecs. You take it and you put it in your arm so that the triangle is in here, and you would squeeze it to train his arms. So he was actually doing body part workouts with that at like from 90 to 94, he was doing that shit. And, of course, he wound up getting this flu that, being 94 years old, it was this crazy flu that came along that was really banging people up left and right, and that's ultimately what killed him. His immune system couldn't handle that flu, and he ultimately passed away. But here's a guy that beat cancer. He had, I believe it was it bladder cancer, I think he had bladder cancer. He beat cancer. He was fucking fine. He had all his wits about him. I lived with him for a little while when I was younger, and, I just remember thinking, man, he's just the strongest, toughest son of a bitch I've ever met in my life. And I was like, he's probably going to outlive my entire family. I'll probably die before he will. And that's kind of like where it went. But, if you looked at it and said, well, your grandfather lived to be long because he really exercised a lot because he was on the farm and lifting the bushels, which is the same principle that you're getting from, these studies. But the big part of it was his diet and what he ate. And a big part of what these people are also not talking about is these people are more likely than the average person to eat better, eat less, and then live longer because of that. So their immune system has a better response due to the exercise. The foods that they're taking helps them nourish their body from the workouts and stuff like that. So they're focused in a holistic approach, not just trying to make grip strength happen, which I thought was very misleading. I thought, there's going to be people out there with those grippers going like this, man, I'm going to live to be 1,000, and it's not going to work. They're going to die at 45 of a fucking heart attack because they're gripping the fuck out of here and they take a piece of pizza while they're gripping, you know what I mean? Or they're taking some kind of random fucking food that's chemical laden, full of all kinds of calories and shit. They're like, oh, I'm going to live to be 1,000, and they fucking dropped out of a heart attack because they don't understand that there really isn't one aspect. There isn't one thing that you can do that's going to extend your health, that's going to extend your life. Not one specific thing, but a group of things or a number of things that work together. Again, I've talked about synergy so many times between workout synergy, cardio synergy, the foods that you eat, the supplements that you take. When you combine different things, you get a synergy from. When you combine healthy eating, when you combine exercise, when you combine some cardiovascular in there, you combine, the overall caloric, keeping your calories, I don't want to call it caloric restriction, but keeping your calories in check, you now have an environment where your body can thrive for a longer period of time. The foods that my grandfather ate were very micro-based too. So he was getting all his vitamins. I don't think he ever took a multivitamin, but he was eating very wholesome, clean, bro foods all the time that kept him fed and nourished micro-wise too. So be aware, guys, like read these studies and stuff and take them with a grain of salt because you don't really understand everything that's going into it. And they don't tell you because they're not studying what they were eating. They're only studying their strength, their grip strength. The other study I read said the faster you move the weights is indicative of your actual strength. So if you can sit down and do bench press, and you're doing this with it, the faster you go, the stronger you technically are. They measure power by how many times you can move the weight in a certain given period of time. And that's what they were measuring there. And they said, wow, that includes strength. And that strength means that you're going to live longer. I'm like, yeah, but what about the person? First of all, I don't know if you guys remember when you first started training, you couldn't train fast. You didn't have the mind-muscle connection to where you had good movement patterns where your central nervous system could fire and you could move that really quickly. After you've been training for a couple of years, then you notice that you get in a groove. You pick it up off the rack, there's a groove, and you get in that groove, you can rep out really quick like that, right? Well, how do you think that happens? It happens over time, but what you're not understanding is during that period of time where you became advanced, not only are you getting that mind-muscle connection, but you're also getting more rest because you want to recover from your workout, so sleep is important. You're also eating certain foods. You're also making sure that you're hitting your macros and micros. You're doing everything that you need to do to be better at that weightlifting in general. Well, all of that stuff together as a byproduct creates a healthier individual. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can do some dumb shit and be unhealthy, but if you're eating a balanced diet, getting all your micros in, training with weights, getting enough sleep, recovering from your workouts, and you're focused on being a well-balanced, overall holistic individual like that, then guess what? You're going to be healthier in the long run. You're going to be able to live a longer life and live a more fulfilling life because you have more going on that your body can handle. And the more your body can handle as you get older, the more things that you'll be able to do on your own. Taking lids off jars is one thing. Picking things up, going up and down stairs. You know what I mean? If you're at 85, 90 years old, my grandfather was 94 going up and down those stairs all the time. He was fine. Not a lot of 94-year-olds can go up and down those stairs. You know, so be aware, guys. Take everything with a grain of salt, like I said, and just because you read one thing doesn't mean there's not more going on. But dig. Dig and use hashtag JerryLogic. Use JerryLogic. JerryLogic dictates that what you see is not all that's there. There are many other things that compounded create that environment, but you got to pay attention and know that they're there. And knowing that they're there is half the battle right there. BioStreetTraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. BioStreetTraining.com is a blog. It's knowing is half the battle. I sound like G.I. Joe now, and we are out.